pure experiences.
Welcome to another series of the Q&A version of Pure Experiences. So as usual, we have Tarun Pradhaan with us, and we're going to be talking about the origin of the world. If all of you remember, we talked about the origin of the mind a couple of episodes back. Now, we're talking about the origin of the world. So Tarun, hello.
Yeah. Hello.
So what is the world? What is this world that we're talking about? When we say the world, what actually is it?
World is everything that we perceive through senses. So we noticed 4 categories of our experience, that we can divide our experience into 4 categories. These are the world, and the body, and the mind, and the consciousness.
Okay.
The world is something which is farthest from us. Consciousness is the closest, which is I am the consciousness. Mind is one step further.
Mm-hmm.
Body is 2 steps further, and world is totally outside of our experience. We see it as happening outside. So world is an experience that comes to us through senses, sense organs in the body.
And that's what the world is. Just that.
That is all it is. Whatever the senses tell us is the world.
But the world is also made up of patterns, like any other object, yes?
If you examine the contents of the senses, the sensory experience, you will find patterns there. So depending on the sense, we have 5 external senses and some internal senses also, but mostly for the purpose of world, we are going to use the external 5 ones. So for example, if you take the sense of sight, you will find there are certain patterns, there are shapes, and there are colors. So any experience of the world, when it is taken through vision, sense of vision, will appear in the form of shapes and colors.
Everything that
the same shape and the same colors, they keep repeating in various formats, various patterns, and that is all we see. We never see objects.
This is what we see all the time, wherever we look.
Yes, you will find the same basic patterns and then the repetitions of them, simple ones and the complex ones and even more complex ones, but they are all shapes and colors.
But what's the difference? I remember we talked about mental patterns before when we were talking about the mind. What's the difference between mental patterns and worldly patterns, if there is a difference?
Fundamentally, there is no difference.
Okay.
The events happening in the mind are also patterns. The events happening outside the mind are also patterns. The only difference is if the events are registered by the senses, we call them as worldly events. And if the events are registered directly by the mind, we call them as mental events.
I see. So if it's through the senses, definitely worldly.
Yes, that is the only criteria.
It's the only difference.
If you could see your mental contents using your senses, let's say you get another sense magically, and you can see the patterns in your mind using that sense, then it will then your mind will also appear as a part of the world.
I see. Yeah, but we are all part of the world, yes. But I would like to know, I'm very curious about this. how does the world classify me from the world? How does it differentiate that? Essentially, we're all part of everything. But yes, for the purpose of discussion, how does the mind differentiate?
The mind simply, randomly draws a line on the surface of the body and says that, okay, anything that is, uh, not my body is not me. Anything that is body and inside it,
Yes, beyond
it
this
places,
is the world.
yes, it places everything, including mind itself, inside the body and says, okay, now everything else is not me and this one is me.
Yeah.
This is kind of arbitrary boundary that it draws. It will shift. Let us say, if you cut off your nails or hair, now
Exactly.
the cut parts are suddenly part of the world and you throw them away.
It's not part of the person anymore. That's right.
Yes.
That's true.
So the food that is in the plate is the part of the world. And the food, when it is eaten, is me.
So it's the only boundary is the body. Just that.
Yes.
It'll be
You can shift this boundary anytime.
I see.
You can shift it to any place, anytime. So sometimes we call our body as me,
Yeah.
and the mind will call the body as myself,
Yeah.
and sometimes it will call it as my body, the body, or this body.
Yes. But
Then it will draw the boundary at the surface of the mind, and it will say, okay, the body comes and goes. Probably it's not me, but the memories, thoughts, and all these things are me. Then you can shift that boundary also, and then you'll find that there are no boundaries between the world and the mind. It is all same.
It's all happening in the mind.
Yes. So it is all happening in the one place, and there is a thought in the mind. There are processes in the mind that actually artificially divide up everything into inside, outside, world, mind, body, senses, and all this.
And what is this?
These divisions are concepts, ideas.
Just ideas. Ideas of what's not mine, what's mine, what's inside me, what's outside of me. Everything is always two. Like very, dual.
Yes, because that is the mechanism of the mind. That is how it gains knowledge, you see, by dividing things up, by discriminating. It is called discrimination. The faculty of the mind is, brings out the content from background.
Yes.
So a pattern, which is a part of the background, it can classify the pattern as foreground and the rest becomes background. This is the fundamental process in the mind that is always going on. Without that, you won't be able to make sense of anything.
That's right. I mean, and so many. I mean, it's let's say in a day, there's so many things happening. Not everything you remember. You filter everything. If we remember everything, well, I guess we do. In a way, there's a thing that's recording it. But if we remember every detail, that would be madness. And that's how madness for the mind, right?
Yes, if you don't divide, if you don't discriminate, if you don't say that this is me and this is not me, then it will be kind of very difficult for the mind to make sense of anything at all.
Totally crazy. Totally crazy.
We discriminate as finely as required. Whenever we need to discriminate, we discriminate very, very finely.
I see. But so I guess the natural question that comes next would be: is the world part of the mind, or is the mind part of the world?
They both are part of one big thing. They both are part of one big thing, which is neither physical nor non-physical, neither worldly, not mental. And that big, huge thing, usually I call it as the universal mind.
So
You can also, in short, you can call it as universe.
yes, also that means what? The world is in the mind, right? Part of the universal mind.
The mind is not in the world, and the world is not in the mind. Both of the mind and the world, they are just a small part of the universal mind. And your universal mind is not like our mind. It is a metaphysical thing.
Yes.
It is not physical. It is not non-physical. It is not mental. It is not objective. It is not subjective. It is a metaphysical entity.
So what is it composed of? What is in the universal mind? How is it built? What is it?
The universal mind is not a single thing. It is a collection of everything that we can experience.
Okay.
So we can experience all the objects, we can experience all the people, we can experience the minds. All the people can experience their own minds, and everything that can be experienced can be collectively called as the universal mind.
Mhm.
And the human mind is a part of the universal mind, which has surrounded itself with a boundary,
Yes.
like it has discriminated itself out of it and calls it as me, as individual, as person. And then the surrounding parts of it puts it outside of itself and calls it as world. And since the surrounding part is being filtered through the senses have a narrow window, very, very narrow um, window through which they perceive, through which the information comes, and that is what we call as world.
I
A
see.
very tiny part of the universal mind. We call it as world, myself, and my mind.
Mhm. Just very, it's minute, minute.
It is minute. It is like a speck of dust. It's
Yes.
like a drop in the ocean. Probably even smaller than that.
Probably, probably.
Yeah.
So I guess my next question you already answered. So the next question is, why does it perceive it as many and not just one? Why does the mind do that? Why does the mind? Because you said that it's the way that it understands things. It's the way that it categorizes so that it can make sense of everything, right?
Yes. So it does two things: analysis and synthesis.
Okay.
So this is our ability. This is one of the extraordinary ability in the mind, that it analyzes and it's experienced by dividing it up. Then it synthesizes them uh, by combining the matching patterns. So, for example, I'm seeing you,
Yes.
but I'm not actually seeing you. I'm seeing eyes, I'm seeing nose, I'm seeing lips, hair, and I'm seeing background and all these things.
Yeah.
Then I combine all these small things into one, and I call it as you.
Uh-huh.
Then I separate you from the background, and then you become an entity. Otherwise, you are a collection of random patterns for me.
Yes, that's right.
If my mind won't do this pattern matching and analysis and synthesis, it is not going to know anything about you. It is not going to know what is out there. So this is why it differentiates everything into parts, but the difference is really not there.
No, it's
It
not.
is an illusion.
Yes. That's why, isn't that why we make names for everything?
Yes, and if once it is successfully recognized something, it puts a name on it, and that is what we call as knowledge.
Ah,
That is what we call knowledge. Then I know this. She is that person,
yes,
her name is that,
yes.
and she lives there, and we go and attach the other things that I perceived about you, your house and your family and anything, and the things that you said, that the things you did.
That is the person. And that's
Yeah, and then
how we introduce ourselves to people that we meet too, right? This is my job. I went to this school. This is my position in so and so company. Right? Yeah.
So we do this not only to people, we do this to ourselves, and this is how the person is born.
Yes. Huh.
This, events that are happening around this body, they are collected in one container by the mind,
Yes.
and then that container is labeled as I, me.
Me, exactly. Yeah.
Yes. So it is, the person is an idea in the mind. There is no person actually.
Exactly. There is no person. That's true. These are just
No.
ideas of, oh, this is who I am, when it's not even needed. Not even needed at all. That's true.
So if you want to define reality as what exists
Yes.
and unreal as what is made up by the mind as ideas, then we are all unreal. There are no people, there is no me, there are no objects. They are unreal. And what is real is this metaphysical patterns. And
They're all
that
around.
is what we can call as reality. The other things are illusion.
So, and this is a big thing. This is a big thing. This is very freeing, actually.
This is a big realization, and most of the people can understand it, but then they fall back into their habit of dividing things.
That's true. I mean, we forget. Um, this is a very big thing for a seeker. So, with this knowledge, how is this going to? I mean, with a regular person, it's gonna blow their minds. How is this going to affect a seeker with this kind of knowledge? Does it? How is it? How important is it?
See, a regular person, a normal person who is not a seeker is not, if the person is fairly intelligent, he or she will grasp this. But only a seeker goes ahead and implements this knowledge in their daily life.
That's right.
So we stop seeing everything as separate from us.
Mm-hmm.
We start seeing everything as part of the parts of the whole. We don't worry about what that whole is, whether it is me or whether it's something else, something big or something small. We don't worry as long as we say it is just one. These are all events happening in the one. And we turn constructive instead of destructive.
Right.
We become loving, kind, and compassionate.
No,
We become creative.
everything is me. Everything is.
Yeah. So we lose this tendency to call everything as mine or yours or others. The things just are. Then the seeker loses this irrational desire to hoard things, to get things for exclusive use. The seeker takes whatever is very, very needed, very, very essential, very, very necessary, consumes that, and the rest, they don't pay any attention to anything. So it is so much freeing that it brings so much happiness and joy that a seeker never goes back into this old fantasy that there is me and there is world and I am here to get as many things as possible from the world. And the same thing happens with the relations, because I see others as just me. And because the seeker sees others as part of the one whole, they are not after people then, because there is a realization that everybody is one at their core. So we normally, that manipulation of the people stops, the relations stop, we stop trying to get happiness out of suck happiness out of people because we know they are not separate from us.
Yes.
And then the adventure continues, and the artificial barriers in the mind, they will start breaking. You see, it happens only for a seeker, for an advanced seeker, and suddenly the seeker will be able to see things which nobody can see. The seeker will be able to know things which nobody can know, and all these paranormal dimensions
Right. It becomes
open up.
Yeah.
Yes. The illusion of separation starts fading because you have stopped believing them. You have stopped fueling the illusion. So it breaks down. It needs certain energy to keep up that illusion. The energy of the ignorance. When that breaks down, the universe will open up and you will see things which you never imagined.
Pure experiences.
You are listening to Pure Experiences by Tarun Pradhaan. For more, please visit pureexperiences.blogspot.in.